back in the day, we had these dogs, these 2 dogs. First one we got was named Samson. Gretchen and I were living in Athens, Georgia, and I wanted an English bulldog, and I couldn't afford it because they're expensive, okay? So we got boxers because they look kind of the same, but you know, they're like a third of the price. And I was a youth pastor, and so whatever, it worked out. So we got this dog named Samson. He was awesome. He was big, and he was tough, and he was ripped, underbite, you know, and he drooled a lot. He was cool. Everything was going good. We decided it was not good for Samson to be alone, so we got Sadie. And then it all went to hell. That's where it went, okay? It's terrible. Bad influence. Very biblical. Anyway, just kidding. And so, we were crazy people about dog. You know, dog people, like we would get them birthday presents and Christmas presents. They'd stay in our bed. They were like that. And then we moved here. We moved to Jacksonville. And really wise people that we went to church with were like, y'all are crazy about your dogs. And we were like, they're like our kids. And they were like, that's adorable. When you have kids, they're going to be a pain in the butt. And so we're like, not us, never. We love them so much. And then we had kids, and so we put a fence in the backyard, and they lived outside from then on, right? So when JP and Reagan were real little, this girl would come over, and she'd watch the dogs for us, right? And so one day, it's like 11 o'clock, and she calls me. I was a youth pastor at Beach, and she calls me. She's like, hey, I got here at 8 o'clock. I haven't seen the dogs all morning. I think you might need to come home. And I am so aggravated. So I get my truck, I go to the house, go to the backyard, and I had left the gate open. Now here's the thing. The reason that we put the fence there is because we love our dogs. And we backed up right to Hodges. And so we know that if the dogs were to run onto Hodges, then they would be dead. And so the fence was not a punishment. The fence was a provision because we love them. And I don't think the dogs ever understood that, no matter how much we would try to tell them. And so that day that I left the gate open, I know exactly what happened. I know that Sadie, the female, she went and nosed it open. She was like, Samson, it's time. And he was like, Sadie, no. I don't think you understand. The master loves us, and this fence is provision and protection, and it's dangerous out there, and we should stay here. And she was like, whatever. And she went running, and like every dog I know, he's like, okay, and went right behind her. And I'm sure at first when they run out into the neighborhood, they thought, freedom. We can do whatever we want. The man can't hold me down. He got no rules out here. I can chase cats and pee on the neighbor's flowers, and nobody's gonna pick up the poo. I mean, I'm doing whatever I want. We had geese in the pond across the street. I'm sure they gave those a run for it. But here's the reality, is that rebellion always feels like fun and freedom at first. But it can only lead to one of two places, and that's death and bondage. And so I get home and I figure out the thing's open, and then I got to do what every dog owner's done. I get in my truck, roll down the window, and my dogs love some cheese, so I get me some couple of pieces of cheese. I'm riding around the neighborhood with cheese out the window going, Sadie, Samson. And then your neighbors are so dumb. Your neighbor's like, did you lose your dogs? No, Nana and Grandpa got out, but they let her gum down some cheese. Of course they did. I mean, come on, man. That's why Jesus said love your neighbors, because they're idiots, right? And so anyway, we got the whole neighborhood watch going and looking for my dogs and can't find them. And then what started with, when I find these dogs, I'm gonna kill them, goes to, oh no, I hope I can find them. And so we lived in the woods at that point, and we come out and there's a little guard gate there, and I asked, hey, y'all, and the lady's like, yeah, about 9:30, I saw 2 brown dogs come out and take a left towards Atlantic. And I just thought, oh, I'm gonna have to lie to my kids, They went to a happy place, but. So I'm looking around, Gretchen calls me, she goes, I found them. I'm like, oh God, thank you. Where are they? She goes, on the internet. What? They started a GoFundMe page? Where, what? Well, it turns out somebody found them and took them to the pound downtown. And I don't really go downtown. And when I do, it doesn't go good, because I just go to the Jags games, come home mad. So anyway, what are we doing? Anyway, we'll be first in heaven, so don't worry about it. So I figure out what the pound is. I call them up. Hey, I think you got my dogs. And so when people lose their dogs, they put pictures on them so people like us can find them. And I get down there, I walk in this huge building. Holy moly. This little girl, and I mean, she's a grown person, but not really. She's at the front desk. Can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I think you have my dogs. And she treated me like I'm the worst human ever. She was like, I can't, they don't have collars. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's so mad because, all the things. They didn't have collars, they didn't have identification, and Samson wasn't fixed. And I was like, we're just, we're trying to hold out at the house for that. And so anyway. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do? What do I do? She said, well, first we got to identify them. So we go back, and on the way back, I go, so can I just like take them home? She's like, no, it'll be $290 per dog. I was like, well, I didn't know what an investment I had in these dogs, because I didn't pay that much to begin with. I didn't know that they would gain value over time, That's a lot of money. It's almost $600. So we get back, and it's like the old death row, it's all the little cages, and the dogs are like, pick me. And my dog's at the very back, and we get to the back, and Sadie's there, the female. She doesn't even know anything's wrong. She's just wiggling with no tail, and she's like, hey, where have you been? We have been looking for you forever, Samson's thoroughly aware. He looks at me, he's like, oh, he walks to the back, tucks his little nub, sits down, he's like, my bad, dog, Now here's what's happened. My dogs rebelled against the law, which was provision and protection, because we love them, and it felt like fun and freedom. And now they're in bondage, and they have incurred a debt that they can't pay. I mean, even if I pay it on their behalf, what am I gonna do? Go to them and say, all right, dogs, I'll get you out of this one, but you owe me $600. I mean, you better like race a greyhound or deliver a paper or get Timmy out of a well, or I don't know how you gonna do it, but you better do it. And even if they promised and meant it, oh, come on, Joby, if you just get us out of this one, I promise from now on, we'll be perfect. We'll be perfect. We'll teach the kids to walk, and we'll make the bed, and we'll do whatever you want us to do. Even if that was the case, even if they could be perfect dogs from here forward, what are they gonna do about this debt that they've incurred that they can't pay? They're locked up. So I got back to the desk, and I probably didn't have $600 at that point. And I was like, so let me ask you, so what happens if I can't swing the 600? The lady looked at me like I was the devil of hell himself. What? I'm just saying. She's like, well, you relinquish ownership over to us. And I was like, do you kill them? She was like, no, we put them up for adoption, and we bathe them and clean them, and we got to fix the male because, you didn't do that, and clip their toenails and put this low jack system in them so in case they ever get lost, we can, track them down or something. And I go, okay. And I'm thinking about it. And I step back and I look over my left shoulder, and there's this huge poster, and it says, adopt a dog today for $30. I'm like, So I said, all right, I'm done. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna relinquish ownership. She's like, all right. And so she gives me this piece of paper, and I sign it, and she notarizes it. And I take my paper and I walk towards the exit, flip it back around. Hi, ma'am, I'd like to adopt 2 dogs, please. Got something in a brown, male and female. We've already picked out names. And she goes, sir, you can't adopt your own dogs. And I go, I don't have dogs. I have a notarized piece of paper here from the state of Florida that I don't own dogs, you own dogs. And so you got 2. So I found this loophole in the system. So she picks up these papers and she goes to this little office, and I can see through the glass, but I can't hear him, and I can see her talking to her. She's like, and she's like, and then he comes out mad, slams down a clipboard. Then I fill out an application to legally adopt 2 dogs. I pay $60 and legally adopt Sadie and Samson out of the jail and back into my family, okay? And that is the gospel. That you and I have rebelled against the holy God. And I'm sure it was fun at first, man. But now it's catching up with you. And we've incurred a debt that we cannot pay on our own. And Jesus comes on a rescue mission with no discount. And he doesn't pay $60. He pays with the perfect, spotless blood of the Lamb. And that whoever would believe, then he would make the payment that satisfies. And legally and eternally pay our sin debt and adopt us into his family by grace for anyone who would believe. Have you ever put your faith in Jesus? Not in your goodness, But have you ever believed that when he pushed up on those nail-pierced feet and he said, "Tetelestai," or "it is finished," literally paid in full. Have you ever believed, have you ever trusted, like jumped off the diving board and say, "Okay, I believe you. I believe that counted for me"?